Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Keeping Watch, a live stream series where we expose what's happening in Florida politics this week. I'm Natasha Sutherland, the Black Constituency Communications Director for the Comms Hub. And joining me today, we have Representative Escamani from the Florida Legislature. We have Jamara Amani, Executive Director of the Southern Birth Justice Network. And we have Melanie Andrade Williams, the legislative manager at Planned Parenthood of Southeast and North Florida. Welcome, everybody. I'll go ahead and kick it over to all of you to introduce yourselves.
Well, thank you so much, Natasha. I'll get started. I hope my connection's okay. I am coming in from the Florida legislature. And so I really appreciate y'all bringing us together to focus on issues impacting our constituents. And so, again, my name is Ana Escamani. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm proud to serve District 47 in the state legislature, which includes parts of Orlando, Winter Park, Belle Isle, Edgewood. Before I ran for office, I worked at Planned Parenthood of Southwest and Central Florida, where I served as Senior Director of Public Affairs and Communications. And then, have a long history in advocacy as a college student. I grew up in a working class family of immigrants. So really do care about the health and well-being of every person and the ability for Floridians to have the freedom to be healthy, safe, and prosperous. So very excited to be with two of my favorite people in Florida. And I'll toss it over to my colleagues to also introduce themselves.
Hey, good evening. My name is Jamara Amani, and I am a mother of four. I'm a licensed midwife here in the state of Florida and the director of Southern Birth Justice Network and co-founder of National Black Midwives Alliance. This is an issue that's really important for birth justice and for healthcare providers across the state. And as someone who has the opportunity to have pregnant people in front of me, young people, preconception people, and to give positive, affirming, accurate, comprehensive, and quality information about healthcare. I'm happy to be here this evening just to share a little bit about how this type of legislation and these types of issues impact my community. So thank you.
Hey, my name is Melanie Andrade Williams. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And as Natasha stated, I'm with Planned Parenthood in Florida. Here, I'm the legislative manager. And I've been an activist, community organizer, advocate for 10 years now. Since the murder of Trayvon Martin in Sanford, Florida, I've been pushed and moved to want to, organize amongst my minority community and just do the work that we need to educate our people and then activate our people and get them involved in policy making, voting, the legislative process at every level, local, statewide, and beyond. So I'm excited to be here with other powerful people of color and just jump into the conversation. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. I'm really excited to have all of you here with us this evening. But if y'all are ready, we can just jump right in. So first and foremost, I think, it's important for us to kind of do a little bit of a level set, right? For those that don't know who are watching today, what's going on in Tallahassee right now? Could you briefly explain what legislative session even is? And how does it impact everyday Floridians? Like, why should people be interested in what's happening in Tallahassee?
Well, I can get us started on that one, but I'm sure Mel has more that they can share too. So people should care about what happens in legislature because every issue you can think of, the legislature touches. So if you care about good schools, good, well-funded schools with teachers that are paid a salary that they can live on and to really have a positive impact on your kid, then you should care about what happens in the state legislature. If you care about the environment, pollution prevention, taking on climate change, if you care about wages or safety nets like food stamps and unemployment benefits, then you should care about the legislature. If you care about traffic in your neighborhood and the need for more public transportation, then you should care what happens in Tallahassee. So this really is a 60-day session where every issue you can think of is impacted and decided upon. And also during these 60 days, we pass the budget. So the state of Florida has upwards of a $101 billion budget. That's billion with a B. 40% of that about is federally funded, but we dictate how a lot of this money is spent. And so when you pay taxes on products like sales tax, you pay a gas tax, all that goes to general revenue and to different statewide expenses. So if you care about how your public money is spent, then you should follow the legislative session. Of course, we've seen a body of policymakers that have really been disconnected from the needs of everyday people, and culture wars have really dominated what takes place in these chambers. And part of that is due to the fact that these are lawmakers who've been able to avoid public accountability because a lot of folks don't realize what's happening in their state legislators.
I would want to just add to that. I think Rep. Escamani really hit it on the head. So much of our day-to-day lives as Floridians and other states too are impacted by our legislative sessions. I think that for me, I've heard a lot of people saying that our votes don't matter and saying, well, what more do we do? Like, we vote for people, but it seems like our issues or our voices still aren't heard on things that we really care about. Well, legislative session is a time where those people that we elect and put into the state house, those senators that we elect in the state of Florida, this is their time to do the work that we elected them to do. And of course, we know that realistically, this happens year round. It's not just in this 60-day period, but it's so pertinent for people to know what's happening. I don't think it's possible for us to know everything that's going on, but when we know where this information is being shared, we can be more empowered to inform ourselves. For me, it started off pinpointing those organizations or those individuals that I know are sharing accurate information and continuously updating myself, watching what they're doing so I can start to understand not only the session and how it operates, but the language that they use and what it actually means. It can be really jarring at first, but if you care about this stuff and you want to do more than just vote, then I think session is a good place to start, just watching what's happening and keeping up with the calendar.
Yeah, I'll just add that. Thank you both for that overview. As somebody who lives in South Florida, sometimes it feels like Tallahassee is just like, it might as well be another country. Because I think for the average person that lives in and around Miami, like it's really difficult to get there. It's, almost impossible. And then to try to keep up with what's going on. As you said, Melanie, it's like, who do you trust? Like, which sources do you listen to? Right? Because they're always gaslighting us. Right. And so trying to figure out like that puzzle, I think is really difficult for the average constituent. But I think that's why forums like this are important. And, and I think it would be great to, just educate folks about what is happening there and where to get the information. I think that's something that every citizen needs to know.
Exactly. Thank you all so much. I mean, I think that really, drives home why we're doing this session this evening. And so, one of the things that I'd like for us to talk about this evening is what bills should we be watching this week for the folks at home, that maybe they aren't paying attention yet and they're just kind of jumping in and they'd love to know how that's going to affect Floridians if it passes and becomes a law. And, considering that it's Black History Month, could there be anything that we can say about this bill that we're watching that specifically affects the Black community in the state of Florida?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I feel like there's actually quite a few issues that intersect with Black lives. And, there's a few that come to mind, but I want to give space to my colleagues who are directly impacted as Black women to lift this up. But I will highlight, of course, the anti-abortion bill that just got agended for its third and final stop in the Florida House. So that's HB 5. And I do want to give space for folks to share their perspective on this. But I'll say that this is a really dangerous bill that would essentially ban abortion in Florida after 15 weeks. There's no exceptions for rape or incest. And abortion bans impact every type of person, but it's going to impact those who don't have the means to leave the state for this constitutional right and health service. And so what has already happened in other states who have bans is you're going to see people of color, you're going to see folks who are of low wealth, you're going to see folks who are indigenous or undocumented or with disabilities really struggle, to express bodily autonomy while their more well-off peers can. And I think that disparity is really dangerous. And it also is un-American. And decisions about someone's pregnancy should be personal and private. And I am really excited to have Jamara here because Jamara is, as she noted, is not only a birth justice advocate, but a doula. So Jamara knows it, face to face, just the importance of allowing people to decide when they want to become parents, how they want to become parents. And so this is a complete slap in the face to all of our efforts to make sure that healthy families can thrive in Florida. I'm also reminded of House Bill 7, which, is basically like the most discriminatory bill because it prohibits conversations, focused on race. And so I want to give space for others to speak to this, but I believe that bill was actually just heard this evening, and it's making its way to the House floor. And then, so these are two really important bills, but I don't want to I want to make sure viewers realize that there's also a lot of economic issues happening right now that, I would argue abortion access is also an economic issue because you're locking people into poverty. But there's more explicit examples like corporate tax breaks happening right now. The Florida Senate just passed a $4 billion tax break to the state's largest, most profitable corporations. That was last week. So we do have these other examples of, a lot of attention goes towards issues that are seen more controversial. But then you have amazing bills that never get heard that would transform people's lives, like childcare, covered and expansions of early ed and things like that. But then you have these corporate tax breaks that are moving really aggressively that, when we give tax breaks to corporations, the rest of us carry that burden to make up the difference, or we don't see the results of good government and services that we need. So just a few examples, but I'm going to toss it to my colleagues to kind of, amplify what's on their mind and what they're watching.
Well, I want to focus in on the abortion ban bill that you brought up and just explain a little bit more about what it does. So specifically HB 5 and SB 146 are the abortion ban bills that are moving this session. And they have a very misleading name that I really don't even want to share. They're 15-week abortion ban bills. There are some parts of the bills that don't focus on the abortion ban. One of them in particular being giving almost 2 million, so like 1.6 million to the Florida Healthy Start coalitions in order to expand and also create fetal and infant mortality review committees. So coupled with that is a 15-week abortion ban. And as we know, that's not constitutional at this point. When asked why a bill was filed that we know is against the law, the representative who is sponsoring the legislation, Rep. Grawl, said that we're doing this in anticipation that the 15-week ban that we see out of Mississippi is going to be upheld by the Supreme Court of the United States. So HB 5, if you look up the Florida House or the Florida Senate website, you can actually find this bill. You can track it. You can just use your email, track this bill, and the same thing on the Senate site. It's free and it'll go to your email whenever bills like these, whenever this specific bill moves. You can do that with other bills as well. You can track representatives and senators themselves, and you could track committees. So just for anybody watching who's wondering where you can find more information on this, those are free tools that I would definitely urge you to look into. But yeah, so it's an abortion ban bill that really manipulates the language that we've been using. A lot of groups that focus on the issues that we as Black people and minority people and women face when it comes to maternal mortality and infant mortality. They're kind of using that language with more of a sinister agenda behind it this session.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. It is a lie. The title of the bill, that's what I meant earlier when I said that they be gaslighting us. This whole idea that, of that it's reducing mortality is just absolutely false. So don't be fooled by the title. And it's actually a slap in the face to those of us who are advocates for maternal and infant health, who have been working on these issues for years, because we know that abortions do not do that. Actually, restricting access to abortion increases maternal mortality and infant mortality, because it means that more unplanned pregnancies that were never intended to be carried to term, are being forced to be. More people without access to adequate health care, and at risk for higher rates of complications. And we know that it's going to disproportionately impact Black and Brown people who, and we know that Black and Indigenous birthing people are already at higher risk for those complications and for morbidity and mortality. So it's absolutely a slap in the face, and disrespectful, particularly during Black History Month, when we should be uplifting Black communities and making access to healthcare, easier. And abortion is healthcare. Let's be clear. It is healthcare, and anyone that is restricting access to abortion is stopping people from getting access to healthcare that they need. And this is part of a long legacy of really, disenfranchising Black communities from the types of care that we need, of marginalizing care providers who serve Black communities and targeting them, of making sure that people who either don't have private insurance or need some type of support are disenfranchised and continue to be below the poverty line. So this is part of an entire agenda. And so we have to call it out for what it is and stop HB5 in its tracks.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's really scary, as a Black woman, and just kind of seeing what's been happening here in Tallahassee. And I mean, I remember, when doing some research about this, I saw that, Black women are nearly 2.5 times more likely to die from childbirth than white women in this country. So it's really important. I think I agree with everything that you all are saying, that we have access to everything, every tool in the toolbox, right, to ensure that we have, adequate, good health care. So, I think that, considering all of this, considering the bills that are moving between, HB5 and so many others, for the folks at home that are watching this evening, what can Floridians who aren't in Tallahassee or aren't able to come to Tallahassee, for example, what can they do to speak up against this harmful Republican bill or any other legislation that concerns them?
Well, first of all, Natasha, thank you for bringing us together tonight, because I think this is step one, right? Is us letting folks know what is happening. I can't tell you the many occasions where I hear from constituents after the fact, because, as hard as I try and all the advocates here try to get information out and to get folks plugged in, if the media isn't reporting on it, if we're not working with coalition partners to make sure we spread this information, a lot of folks don't hear about it till the bill passes, until the governor signs it, because that's when it tends to get the most media attention. And so even just this effort of getting out the alerts, kind of letting folks know what's happening, is really important, because it gives you the chance to get plugged in before that bill actually becomes law. And so in the case of any bill that you're watching, whether you like it or not, you want to be able to contact your state house representative and state senator. You want them to know where you stand on all these issues. And, today I've had, candidly, not a lot of time to do any emails yet, or a lot of my computer work, because I've had so many visitors in Tallahassee that I've just kind of been in this, whirlwind of constituent meetings. But it's so important that I do that, and then you come up here, because it allows us to kind of know what's on your mind and what's a priority for you. So lawmakers have that in the back of their heads when they are voting on these issues. So in addition to knowing who your elected representative and state senator is, I also encourage you to don't be afraid to, make those phone calls to lawmakers who don't represent you, because they're voting on issues that impact the entire state. And I get many emails, especially on, bills that are controversial or economically impactful, where folks contact me from everywhere. And I really appreciate that, because it gets me an idea, especially if there's a bill that, for example, might impact Miami or parts of South Florida, but I'm voting on it. I want to hear from those constituents. So don't think that your voice doesn't matter because it's not your elected official. You should still contact all members of a committee. You should still contact committee chairs and vice chairs and ranking members. There's a bill you want to get agenda. But in the case of House Bill 5, and I'll toss it to Mel to share more, but the bill, as I mentioned earlier, just got agendaed for 9 a.m. on Thursday in the Health and Human Services Committee in the Florida House. And this is the moment to call each one of those members. And I posted on our Facebook page, the link to do that. But you want to contact every member of that House committee and tell them to vote no on HB 5. Email them, call them, tweet at them. Again, these are folks who, in a lot of cases, kind of operate under the radar, because a lot of attention goes to DC. There is this nationalization in politics that the United States has, where a lot of our news focuses on the White House, on Congress, which is important, obviously. But again, we're here tonight to emphasize how all politics is local, and to be aware what's happening at a local level, and of course, get plugged in.
I would add to that, with calling our representatives that are in this committee on Thursday morning, I would also add, if you're a social media person, go ahead and hit them up on social media. Go to Twitter. A lot of our lawmakers, as you all know, have been using Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. I know we have a lot of the younger generation that are getting really tuned in and plugged into politics. So TikTok is a big thing. You can tag your lawmakers. You can post a clip of the bill and say, I don't support this. You can do creative things, writing op-eds to your local papers. If you're in college, writing opinion editorials to those papers as well. You can use whatever platform you use to talk about cultural things and, things with celebrities. You can use those same platforms to just get the word out about what's happening in your opinion. And you'd be surprised that you'd be educating and exposing folks who aren't aware of this stuff yet. So I think that it's 2 for 1. You can use it to contact your legislators directly on social media. You're holding them accountable by contacting them so publicly, but you're also going to be educating other people who use social media, no doubt. So that's one thing. Also, if you're in Florida, I'd say volunteer with your local Planned Parenthood, if this issue really hits close to home and you want to support.
No, that's great. Jamar, did you have anything to add? It sounds like it was pretty comprehensive.
No, I think all that's great. I did just want to uplift the Birth Justice Bill of Rights, because I think sometimes folks look at these issues regarding pregnancy, birth, abortion as being separate, but really it's an entire spectrum of reproductive justice and birth justice. And so number 22 on the Birth Justice Bill of Rights is "My body is always mine," and it's the right to bodily autonomy. So I just wanted to uplift that. And you can find the Birth Justice Bill of Rights on our website, southernbirthjustice.org. And we're having a session on Thursday night, a virtual session on the 10th, to uplift birth justice and to educate folks about what it is. And it is full spectrum, access to care and knowing your rights and all of that. So I would encourage folks to come out and learn more about the entire pregnancy spectrum and bodily autonomy.
Well, you heard it from them, folks. Get involved in any way that you can. And with that, we also have in the chat a petition that Florida Watch is circulating to tell legislators to stop the ban. So at a minimum, you can sign that petition. Okay, so next, we're going to go to open up for questions. So if folks at home have any questions they want to put in the chat, we'll be taking a look at that. I'll give you all a few minutes to maybe decide to put something in there for us. Maybe just another couple of seconds if anybody's out there that wants to ask a question.
I'm seeing some great comments of folks who are frustrated by their elected officials, but definitely engaged and ready to fight back. So I love that.
Yeah, it's great to see that, and definitely get on TikTok, get on social media, let everybody know how you feel about this, talk to your family, your friends, and so on. Okay, well, I don't see any questions. So I just want to say to my guests here, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, for having this important discussion with folks at home. Melanie, Jamara, Representative Eskamani, I just really appreciate you taking the time to explain, what legislative session is, how HB 5 and SB 146, the 15-week abortion ban, is going to impact, Florida's communities, the Black community, communities of color, and I think it goes without saying that we have a lot of work to do in Florida. So for folks at home, just make sure that you like this video and share it with your friends and family so that they can stay up to date on what's happening here in Tallahassee. And also be sure to tune in next week for our next episode of Keeping Watch. Thank you all so much.